is involved in a project here in Nigeria that I think you're going to find very exciting. And the structure of this conversation is that I'll ask him 3 questions, and he'll have a chance to talk about Andela, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask him questions as well. We call this a fireside chat. So the idea is that it's a 15-minute conversation with an individual who is doing incredible, innovative work here on the African continent, and in this particular case, right here in Nigeria. So let's just start off. What is Andela, and what was the rationale for creating this great company?
Thank you. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Hola. I didn't know you were going to be here, but we've worked together on a bunch of teacher education stuff before. So it's good to see familiar faces. So what is Andela? Because we only have 20 minutes. Andela is a movement to build the next generation of African technology leaders. And right here on the continent, we're based in Yaba. A year ago, in June last year, we started out with our first class of fellows, just 6 of them. And today we have 113 as of yesterday. 113 fellows after going through 18,000 applications to the program, training over 300 boot campers. And we have also another group of 9 people in Nairobi where we started another center. The uniqueness of Andela is in the model that it runs. So we're probably the only school in the world that I know that pays people to learn. And the way our model works is we look for the most driven young people on the continent who are passionate about technology and believe it's the future and that they want to gain those kind of skills. We train them to become world-class software developers as one element of becoming world-class problem solvers using technology. And then we provide them an experiential learning opportunity where they are placed with top technology companies around the world. So some of our partners are Google, Microsoft, 2U, tons of large and small companies based in the US. We also have a Nigerian client now. So, so what we do is basically provide that platform for young people here who have a lot of potential to realize that potential by building them into top-class, world-class technology leaders on the continent. Now, the rationale, it really just boiled down to 3 things for myself and for my 3 other co-founders. So I founded this company with Jeremy Johnson, our CEO, a very experienced guy, had taken the company public, and 2 other co-founders, Christina Sass and Ian Carnivale, both of who are experienced educators and bring a lot to the team in that respect. There are basically 3 reasons around kind of thinking with Andela. The first one is really a really deep belief that we all share with the fact that, greatness, opportunity, potential, talent, whatever you want to call that thing that allows us to have the Steve Jobs and the Mark Zuckerbergs or whatever is equally distributed. I would even go further to say it's in everybody, right? But the significant difference is that the opportunity is not. And that lack of opportunity is particularly pronounced on the continent. Given the numbers, we take our young people to other countries and we see how they excel there. Nigerians, for example, or Africans are actually the most educated demographic in the US. We just need to look on the field, at the IAF the other day and see what our talent is doing. And if you take the same approach to talent development that the music industry, the entertainment industry, and the sports industry has taken to developing a certain kind of talent for Africa, and we take it to actually maybe higher impact areas, then some interesting things can actually happen there. And so we share that deep belief, and it's what drives our work. The second thing is there's some seismic shifts in the economy over the last 10 years that have really changed the landscape in terms of the future of work, the future of learning, and basically how people can make impact around the world. And you think about, for example, an opportunity. Many people think of it as a disadvantage that we have, one of the largest youth unemployment rates in the world. it's a clear sign, more pronounced here than anywhere else, that something is not working in the education system, and it presents an opportunity for us to fix it. You look at the fact that, over the last 10 years, advancements in technology and education technology and education itself have made it easier for us to transfer knowledge across oceans. So 10 years ago, if I was running this program, I would spend an awful lot bringing in experienced people to come teach. But now that learning experience can happen online. And there are new tools for teaching it. I'll have to spend a fortune on building curriculum and stuff, but there's free, sites where people can go and learn how to code online. Internet penetration would be a huge problem, but now, we're the world's fastest growing, internet connected continent, growing 51% over the last 5 years. So a bunch of things have changed that have made this possible. And then finally, I think, and this is more personal for me, is there is a growing need for young people who can solve problems, African problems, using technology. And we tend to underestimate our contribution to technology as a continent. This is the continent that built the wheel. This is the continent, just a few years back, just about 10 years back, we actually built banking software here in Lagos that is being used all over the world, to transact millions of trillions of dollars of transactions. But that innovation culture has gone. Somebody raised the point of liberalization, might be one of the things, but we've lost that, and it's important for us to bring that back because we are actually living in a technology future. It's hard to imagine that because we're in this fancy hotel, and once you leave here, you see traffic. But for example, we are the world's most mobilized continent. 76% of Nigerians access the internet through their mobile phones. And so when Facebook and Google are saying mobile is the future, we're already living that future here, right? It's the highest rate. It's higher than India's. So it just goes to show that we need to stop allowing other people to set the agenda for us in terms of the kind of problems we'll solve with technology. We need to start building those solutions here in Nigeria. And for us to be able to do that well, we need people who are deep and understand, we need talent that understands what to do there. So that's basically the rationale.
So when I met with Jeremy in New York initially, he shared with me that, for example, Amazon has, 67,000 jobs that they need to fill.
Yes.
It could be more than that. And the solution that you've come up with is trying to fill those jobs from here.
Yeah, so one of the seismic shifts, and I didn't quite touch on that, is the fact that the most valuable skills in the world right now, the most valuable jobs in the world, are jobs that can be done from anywhere in the world, right? There are 1.4 million open IT jobs in the US. 1.4 million. So Amazon is actually just like one tiny example of like a much larger, thing. And these jobs can be done from anywhere. You can set up servers from anywhere. You can push software from anywhere. Our fellows do it every day for over 30, 40 partners that we currently have. So these are jobs that can be done from anywhere. And so that gives us an opportunity to actually, contribute on a global scale. We can stop asking the question, what can the world do for Africa? We can start answering the question, what can Africans do for the world?
And so, and the other thing that I thought was interesting is that in the United States, the average technology job, you can start making $90,000, $100,000 just as an entry-level job. And the service that you're providing your clients is that you can identify someone who you've trained over a pretty decent amount of time to provide that same work for, let's say, $40,000.
I mean, that is one of the economics that make the whole thing work. So, one of the things that actually spurred this was I was having a conversation with Jeremy, and he was telling me how difficult it was for him to find Salesforce developers, even at $120,000 a year.
In the United States?
In the United States.
Wow.
There's 1% unemployment in the technology space, 1%. It's lower than everywhere else in the world. It's massive scarcity of IT workers, technically literate, people who can do technical talent, and so, it's a situation in San Francisco, a situation in Seattle. It's a global problem. And what we've managed to do is build a business case around solving that problem. But I would say it's, that's an important piece of what we do, but it's not the major reason why we're doing what we do. It's what allows us to sustain as a business. That's why we're for profit. We're not a non-for-profit. But it's just one piece of what we do. But, for technology companies that are working with us, they see massive value in unlocking the talent that comes from here, because people here just more driven to solve problems, more, they're just able to do things, they take different approaches to solving problems. And so that's massively interesting for our partners.
So before we go into Q&A, I'll ask you one last question. If you could change 2 things about education in Nigeria, what would you change? 2 things.
2 things. That's a very tough question because, I've got 5 minutes, man. Okay. So I've spent a massive amount of time in education in Nigeria. This is my 6th year of working in the education industry, in Nigeria, outside of Nigeria. Now, and I think the first thing that I wish I could change was just create a realization, a come to Jesus moment for the country about how absolutely screwed we are. I mean, as a continent. No, I mean this
when
with.
You say screwed, you mean in the education?
Yes, in education. In education. No.
Education
yes,
specifically.
education
Okay.
specifically. Just how massively screwed we are. So I just want to give you a couple numbers just to illustrate the issue. Right? We've got. We're going to have over 1 billion young people joining the workforce, being workforce population age over the next 30 years. So 30 years, so 2035, got 1 billion people, right? We have spaces in our university for less than 1/3 of these young people, right? And this is just admissions, just plain admissions. So we've got increasing levels of literacy, primary, secondary, nowhere to get them to a tertiary education that would allow them to be useful in life. Let's not even talk about the issues with that education and how they're preparing people for the workforce. Let's just leave that to one side. Let's not even talk about the fact that our budgets and our government are not actually set up to solve the problem at all. They're spending 70% of their, at least in Nigeria, I can tell you, they're spending 70% paying teacher salaries for school teachers in 40 unity schools. Like literally, that's what the education budget goes towards, right? So there's just like it is an absolutely terrible situation. I don't think anybody has actually said, hey, like this is a terrible situation. We need a crisis. I think the only person who ever did this was Obiageli Ezekwesili. She's probably the only minister who's actually said, "Yeah, this is a problem. This is a crisis." And actually,
it's a problem. It's a crisis.
And it's funny because she said this at a time when we didn't have Boko Haram, we didn't have Niger Delta militants, right? And so everything that she said in 2006, because I've been following the industry since then, is coming to to play right now, right? It's almost like she's a prophet. So that just goes to show you like how so I think that's the first thing. Everybody just needs to understand how bad it is. And then second of all, we need the kind of leadership that will help us fix those problems. And we need to throw away the book. Nothing that we think, people are talking about studies. Nah, this is not a problem McKinsey can help us solve. I'm sorry. Like it is a problem that we got to just try everything we can to make sure it's fixed. And it's going to start from a couple things. The first thing is understanding how we can achieve scale with the interventions that we bring to bear. How can we touch every part of the country? I'm just telling you, we have 76%, mobile, but 76% of people access the internet through mobile. Mobile has to be part of the solution, right? We have 90% youth unemployment. We got to be talking to employers about how are we going to transform the potential we have into, growth for the country. So there's a lot of these other things that we absolutely have to do, and I see I have 30 seconds, so I'll just leave it there. But two things is not enough. But I think those 2 things I'll start with. First of all, let everybody understand. Like let's lay out the cards and say, listen, we're really screwed, right? Second of all, we got to find somebody, which is why personally the only cabinet position I'm interested in. I'm not a very political person, but only one is the Minister of Education.
Okay, you heard it here.
That's the only one I'm interested in.
You heard it here.
Kind of the Minister of Finance, but maybe not as much. But the Minister of Education, I am super interested in because if we appoint the wrong leadership there, we will just continue down the path we're already on, and that's just even more difficult problems to solve later on.